sometimes life comes at you, doesn't even feel like it's coming to you, it's sort of coming at you, and you are noticing it, to say the least, responding to it, reacting to it, knee-jerk responding to it, observing it, certainly. In fact, most humans offer most of their vibrational offering, which comes anytime you focus on anything. Most people offer that in response to something that they are observing. It's logical, isn't it? But the real finesse, effectiveness, you might even say power of deliberate creation is to be hardly ever reactive. Proactive, maybe, getting out ahead of it a bit. But when you wait for something to manifest and then you respond to it, it's harder for you. And yet almost everybody does it all the time. The other day, this seems like a silly analogy, but stick with us because it'll play out through the conversation today and it will make sense to you. Esther got a craving for something she hadn't eaten in a long time, some soft-boiled eggs. She likes them soft. She likes to put some butter and salt and pepper on them, and she knows just how she likes them to be. So she got out the saucepan, she put them in the saucepan, she covered them with just the right amount of water and turned the fire on beneath them. And then, for some reason that she hadn't really planned, she stood in front of the stove and watched the pot boil. She knows a watched pot doesn't boil. She's heard that before, but she wasn't thinking about that. She was just sort of interested in the bubbles on the bottom and then the bubbles up the side. And it wasn't long before the eggs came to a full boil. And then she did what she always does. She turned it off as soon as it came to a full boil, put a lid on it, and waited for exactly 3 minutes for the eggs to become perfection. As she was waiting that 3 minutes, she had a thought that she had not thought before. Seemed silly maybe, felt profound to Esther. She knew for sure that that water was going to come to a boil. She didn't wonder if it would. She wasn't hoping it would. Oh, please, 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 please. She knew for sure that that water with that fire beneath it was going to come to a boil. It was going to manifest into boiling water. She knew it for sure. And she thought then about creations that she's about or that you're about, and how when the fire is on, which is what the focus is, if it's steady, it will come to the manifestation that you choose. It will turn out the way you want it to. Really good eggs. It will turn out the way you want it to. And then Esther thought, unless I do with these eggs what I've done with other things, turn it on, turn it off, turn it on, turn it off, turn it on, get distracted, turn it on, get annoyed, turn it on, become impatient, turn it on, and don't let the natural physics of the universe take their course. Question? Really? Is this water going to come to a boil? Well, there have been enough pots of water come to a boil that it's ridiculous to question that. But you might question if that man's ever going to show up, or the money in the bank, or the things that you want, or the lifestyle that you're asking for, yes? And so just hang on to that a little bit, because we want you to know for sure that when you focus without contradiction, without turning the fire off, that whatever it is that you have chosen as your desire must be no exception ever. And if it hasn't come about yet, you're turning it on and off and on and off and on and off and on and off. And don't say you aren't, because you are. You're not keeping the focus there. Now, it's not the easiest thing in the world to focus upon what you want when you are faced with something that you do not want, we're not asking you to do impossible things. In other words, there's a pot that is what you want, and there are pots about what you don't want. The things that manifest that you don't want happen for the same reason. You kept focus on them. And you might want to ask yourself, why is it easier to keep the focus on the pot you don't want? I knew that was going to happen, you say. So, focus, expectation, that's really what we want to talk with you about today. You will notice a perfect unfolding. The other day, favorite news story, Esther heard it secondhand from her daughter, her family, mom, dad, teenager, on their way Saturday morning to get bagels, the only really good place in town that has them. And they got there, 2 of them went in, mom waited in the car, they went in, they were gone a little while, not long. They came back and they said, they're out of bagels. What? How can they be out of bagels? They're out of bagels. But how? How can they be out of bagels? This is called the bagel shop. What kind of management do they have? It's not even that late in the day. It's early in the day. Don't tell me this is supply chain. They make them in there. What do you mean they're out of bagels? How can they be out of bagels? And then Luke, brilliant at times, said, guys, can't they just be out of bagels? Can't they just be out of bagels? Do we have to talk about this until I graduate from high school? And yet, what makes you want to defend where you stand? Or what do you think that is? It's a determination to get what you want. But can you feel what we're getting at here? That's not going to get you any bagels. And when you practice that sort of thinking, of looking at what is when what is doesn't please you, and spending any time at all on what is that doesn't please you, you know what you do? You keep a fire under a pot that trends and trends and trends, and we promise you, well, it's not our promise. We're nicer than that. The law of attraction promises you. Law of attraction is very friendly, consistent in its friendliness. Law of attraction will bring you whatever it is that you're offering vibrationally. So all of this rambling and babbling that we've been offered here boils down to one thing. How happy am I now? 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 Now, we could use another word other than happy. How satisfied am I now? 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 Because sometimes you're satisfied because it's interesting. Sometimes you're satisfied because it's hilarious. Sometimes you're satisfied because it's measurable. How satisfied am I now? Which is the same thing as how on my path that I set in motion, that my inner being is all over, that I'm being called to, how on that path am I? Satisfaction comes from only one place, and that is having an intention and moving in the direction of it. And it's not the project or the car, it's the intention of being the consistent, better word, steady, better word, constant flower of the energy. Flower of the energy. It's upper half of the scale stuff. It's appreciation, yeah, it's joy, yeah, it's love, but it's interest, satisfaction. And it doesn't dip into boredom or fear or worry or any of that. I tend to my vibration because it matters. It's all that matters. It's all that matters because everything else I've already done. I came into this body, splat, here I am. I've lived life and I've launched rockets of desire, magnificent ones. I've created a vibrational reality that is huge. The cooperative components have been gathered because my inner being focused like I'm learning to do, focused unequivocally like I'm learning to do on the subject, and the cooperative components gathered, and it's taking on new forms, new shapes, new ideas, new depths, new breadths, new satisfying aspects, endless satisfying aspects. And so all I have to do is Get hold of a little piece of something that feels satisfying and milk it. And milk it. And others might say, you seem sort of distracted from the reality of life. Yeah, I do that on purpose. I've been working hard on ADD. It's an art. What do you mean it's an art? It's the art of defocusing what is so that I can create new stuff. Because what is baked in. You know, often you come into your physical body with an intention that is so strong that goes something like, because you're a teacher, no assignment there, it's just who you are. No obligation, we mean nothing that you're meant to do. That's not the point of it. But you come into your physical experience with strong intentionality sometimes. And as a teacher of this time and this place, especially in this time, there are so many people who don't think their own thoughts. There's not room to think your own thoughts. You're so busy absorbing everyone else's and pigeonholing them and cataloging them. And sometimes, in fact, it's really often that people come with enough of a stubborn, meaning non-physical decision variable that they can't be persuaded to conform. Here's why. Oh, we've never said this before with this fervor or intensity. This is so important. Do you know what singular thing gets in the way of the majority of people of focusing themselves into the better experiences that they are asking for? Attention to what is. What is what's in the way of what's new for everyone. It's evident. As people are observing and defending and describing, they hold themselves where they don't mean to be, where they don't want to be. Yeah. The law of attraction is responding to everyone, to the vibrational offering. Most people don't have a clue what they are vibrationally offering because they're covering it up with shoulds and woulds and words. So for most people, until it manifests, they didn't even realize they were there. And here's the piece that we're wanting you to feel our acknowledgement of it. We know you know it. The world is communicating not with words, but with vibration. That's why you have this born with sort of innate resistance to not get so wrapped up in the memorization of life that people are wanting to present to you. In other words, to be interested in what's becoming rather than what is, it's so unique, and it's what every one of you intended. And yet you step into a world that's trying to make it orderly. They want to civilize you, which means they want you to conform with whoever has the most attention right now, idea of what the rightness you should be conforming to. And some of you are just born not just unwilling to do that, but incapable of doing that because your intention was so strong before you came into this physical body. People in your life who are watching you and taking score of what you're doing or not doing, your feeling that you have to explain to them is your biggest tripping point, because it introduces or activates, is a better word, into your active now vibration whatever it is that they've got going on. Not necessary. If you can just practice when you're not with them, loving them, giving them the benefit of the doubt. When you give somebody the benefit of the doubt, you're the one who receives the benefit every time. Really good.